Alright, what's up there, gun tubers? Today is going to be the second video on the suppressors, and this one will be about how I clean them and all the attachments that go along with them. So let me first start off by saying when I bought some of these, of course, they were at the range. I was able to use those at the range while I was waiting to be approved. So a few of these suppressors had my 22 suppressor and my Obsidian 45. They had a lot of rounds to them. This one right here, I probably put 1,000 rounds through the suppressor before I ever got it home and was able to clean it. I could have cleaned it there, but there really wasn't a place for me to break everything down and open it up and use a ultrasonic cleaner or something like that. So I just was lazy and didn't do it. And let me tell you, big mistake. Okay, don't if you want to buy a suppressor and just shoot it until it's completely full and send it back and let them record, hey, go for it. If you want to keep them somewhat clean, then it's best to do it on a regular basis. If you wait a long time, it is a lot of work. This suppressor right here, when I took the baffles out, I couldn't get the baffles out to begin with. I had to use a baffle pusher that I bought from Silencer Central. Works really good. That screws in there and it pushes the baffles out. You could do it with a wooden dowel, or there's other things that you could just tap them out or something like that. But the tool does work really good that I got from Silencer Central to push the baffles out. The baffles were stuck. I pushed them out with a pusher, and I scraped with an X-Acto knife for probably 4 hours, and I still didn't get them all the way clean. I got them pretty good, but they were caked so thick. I was just scraping the stuff off, in chunks. And like I said, it was about 4 hours of scraping. So if you do it on a more regular basis, it's going to be about the same amount of work, but a lot less effort. The scraping was kind of tedious. But if you clean them after each range session, or at least every other range session, then it makes it go a lot easier. I did get ultrasonic cleaner, and it does work. It doesn't get them spotless or anything like that, but it basically takes some of the manual labor out of the process, which in my opinion is worth it. You can find these on Amazon cheap. This one I got off Amazon. It's a Hornady, but there's others that are a lot cheaper than this one that would probably do as good or better of a job. I saw another one out there that had two transducers in it that would probably work better than this one. It was a little smaller in volume, but it would probably work fine. This one is not really big enough to do everything at the same time. I normally don't do my gun parts, or I haven't really done many gun parts, just the suppressor stuff. But it's got a basket in it that you can put all the stuff in, and that, for the most part, holds most of the baffles for the really dirty ones, and I'll just do it in 2 batches. But the ultrasonic cleaner, I think, is worth it to get it. It helps. And another trick that I found that is unbelievable, and I'll show you. I'll get some B-roll here and show you how it works. But this stuff right here, this is some like ceramic, silicone, some kind of brake grease, high temperature up to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit grease for brake parts. And it's a little pricey. It's, I think, about close to $20 a tube, but I've been using this tube quite a bit, and there's still a lot left in there. There may be some other things that you could use that would be cheaper. I don't know. Maybe I haven't really tried Vaseline, or I was even thinking about maybe some just like wheel bearing grease or any kind of heavy grease would work. And it would have to be a high temperature grease. I use white lithium grease. I keep a little container in my little thing here that I keep all my attachments in. But I keep a little thing of lithium grease in here for lubing up the O-rings on the end caps or the thread caps where the piston goes through. And I can tell you that does not last. A few shots and it's gone. This stuff burns off. You know, you'll lube up the O-ring real good to where the piston's in there. And your gun will smoke like a chimney for, you know, about 5, 6, 7 shots, and then it'll stop smoking and the grease is pretty much gone. So the white lithium grease burns off pretty quick. It doesn't last. But I was thinking maybe some like wheel bearing grease or something like that may have a little higher temperature rating and may last a little bit longer. But this stuff right here works excellent. It's another thing that I think is, in my opinion, worth the money. If you can find something like this cheaper, then by all means I would do that. But this is what I found so far. I haven't really looked around and tried to find anything else. But I know this stuff works. And it stays on all your baffles and everything. And doesn't seem to burn off. The carbon seems to stick to the grease. So there's like a protective layer on the baffles. So the carbon kind of sticks to the grease, and I'll get some B-roll and show you, but it's pretty amazing how good it works. But anyway, normally what I do is I'll get home from the range, and then I'll start taking everything apart. Any, like your pistons that you have, all of your dirty pistons and stuff like that. And I'll put it in the basket. I'll put these things in the basket along with the baffles and stuff. But I'll get some B-roll and show you here how this works. And actually, let me start with this one right here. This one has only been fired just the one range session. So this one's probably got maybe a couple hundred rounds through it. So you can kind of see what it looks like after one range session. And I'll show you how this grease works out. But as you can see, after one range session, the baffles are coming out easily. Let me grab an old t-shirt rag. You need a lot of rags and gloves. I should have my gloves on here. You're going to go through the gloves and go through the paper towels or shop rags, whatever. You will use them a lot because suppressors are nasty. However many rounds you put through your gun with a suppressor, then you can times that by about 5. So if you go to the range and you put 100 rounds through your gun, when you get home and take it apart, it looks like you've put 500 rounds through it without cleaning it. That's how bad it is. Suppressors are nasty. They just hold all of the gunk in your gun and doesn't let the stuff go out. So your guns get really, really dirty. So you can see that the baffles are coming out. I need to press them out of here. So this is just your main baffle stack. And I'll get some B-roll here of this. But as you can see, the grease is still on there. That's just around the outside. But if you open it up, and you take a rag, this one's going to be a bad example because it's black. Let me do the red here so maybe you can see this a little bit better. But you can see that carbon is just wiping right out of there. See how you can see this one's a red anodized baffle. It is an aluminum baffle. So the aluminum baffles you cannot put in ultrasonic cleaner. So they say. I haven't tried it. I'm not going to, because everybody says it will pit the aluminum and it will remove the anodizing off your baffles, which probably wouldn't be a good thing as far as, you know, your warranty. If you try to send these back and you've cleaned them in an ultrasonic cleaner to where they're all pitted and all the anodizing's gone and all that, and then you had a problem, then I'm sure they would probably not take that too well. If you tried to send it back for any kind of warranty repair or something, they probably try to blame you for it. But see, that's just with a little bit of wiping. That baffle right there is just coming clean. I need to get something, you know, a little pick. That's where your little carbon picks come in handy. Just put them inside of a t-shirt, and then you can get into the corners. And you can see that even right in the corner there, this baffle is just coming clean just by wiping it down, wiping all the gunk out of it. You can see all that stuff that's coming off of it. But that is this grease right here. That's what does it. This stuff, it just puts a coating on it. And I believe that I've got already done some B-roll in preparation for this video. I did some other B-roll. Basically what I do is just squirt a little dab on my fingers, and just put it on very thin, like you're putting on like vegetable or grease or whatever on a cookie sheet or something. Just a very thin little coating on there is all you need. You don't want to goop it on there thick. See, when you put this, when it's in this kind of state, when you put it in ultrasonic cleaner, it really lifts off easy. The ultrasonic cleaner gets a lot of this stuff off. On the black baffles here, you can't really see what I'm talking about, but on this blue anodized baffle, the ultrasonic cleaner would get this very, very clean because of the layer of grease, and you can see that little layer of grease is still on there. That layer of grease is between the carbon and the baffle, so the ultrasonic cleaner will just lift most of all that right off of there. You run it for a couple 15-minute sessions in the ultrasonic cleaner, and I would say half to 75% of everything that's on that baffle will come off, and then you'll just have to do a little bit of detail work to get them completely done. So basically I'll just take them and just take all the baffles apart and throw them down in there. Well, not these aluminum ones, sorry, bad example. No aluminum in the ultrasonic cleaner, remember that. This one right here is the Obsidian 45, and it has stainless steel baffle, so it's good to go. You can put these in ultrasonic cleaner, and you see how easily they just came right out of there. No problems at all. They stay clean on the outside around the edge where they go in the tube, and just your tops and the bottoms of them will get a layer, but you can kind of see how that just wipes right off of there. So when you throw that in the ultrasonic cleaner, most all of this will come off on the ultrasonic cleaner. You may have a little bit left to detail or whatever. I mean, you don't have to get them spotless. A suppressor with a little coating of carbon in it is actually a little quieter than one that's squeaky clean, but for the most part, I try to keep them as clean as I can. That way, to me, it makes it easier the next time. But I was going to try to show you some of the... Well, I got that in B-roll. I did a B-roll of when I took this apart, after I didn't take any video of me having to scrub it, or I didn't take any video of me scrubbing it, but there is still some residual carbon buildup in there that I didn't scrub it all out, or scrape it all out. But in the B-roll, I can show you here what's left over, and all I'd have to do is just take the time to sit down, and I could get the rest of it out. But it was a pretty thick layer of carbon built up. You could tell that there had been a lot of rounds fired through the suppressor without it being cleaned. But the grease does it helps it clean up so much easier. Just a lot less effort than if you wait a really long time. If you wait a really long time, then it's going to be a pain. And no matter what you do, some of these baffles are kind of hard to get apart sometime. I've got a little thing that I made here. It's basically just it's kind of like a concave washer that I found in my parts bin, and I basically put that on the end of this, and then I'll just put it right down in there. Actually, I put the washer down in there first. Put the washer down in there so it sits in that next baffle, and then I put this down in there like that, and then I get a hammer. So then with my hammer, with this sitting down in there, it's sitting right on the opening of the other baffle, but it's got that curved washer so it won't hurt anything, and it is a nylon washer. And then I'll just tap it like that, and they just pop right apart. You can use a Allen wrench. You can use an Allen wrench. This one's not big enough, but they say that you can take the Allen wrench and you can put it like right up in here and pry on it. Hey, that worked. Yeah, I mean, I would use a little bit bigger Allen wrench than this, but you get the idea. I think the grease really helps take these apart a lot easier. If you didn't have the grease coating on these, then they would probably be a lot harder to get apart. And these stainless ones in the Obsidian, they snap together very, very tightly, as you can see right there. That one's not going to just pop loose. So I would take my little washer, put the curved part down, and get it right on top of there. And then I just hold it and just tap it. Some of them are a little tighter than others. They don't want to come loose very easy. And this is not because it's dirty. You can clean these things squeaky clean, snap them together, and they're hard to snap apart. All right, it's starting to come apart now. You can see the hole there is getting a little, I mean, the crack's getting a little wider there. And there it goes. Then it just snapped apart. But this little nylon washer doesn't, it won't hurt the stainless steel baffles. But as you can see, that stuff, it just wipes with that grease. The carbon just wipes right off the baffle very easily. And so you can just let the ultrasonic cleaner do most of the work. But that's how I get these baffles apart, is just by using you have to improvise and, use whatever you can find that won't hurt the baffles and will, be able to get them apart without doing any damage. Because sometimes, popping them loose can be tricky. And so, yeah. So once I get them apart, I still need to do these pieces here. There's baffles in there too that I need to take apart. But I'll take and I will put all of my baffles in there, and as I run it, like I may run it through 2 or 3 15-minute sessions, or maybe even 4. Just depends on how dirty they are. Oops, gotta remember, no aluminum in the ultrasonic cleaner, just the stainless ones. And on the Obsidian 45, they've got a thicker baffle, and then the very last baffle is a very thin, excuse my El Cheapo rubber gloves here, but you can see this baffle right here is a very thin baffle snapped into this one, and it's just about impossible to get that loose unless you do something like this. Use an Allen wrench, or hit it with a hammer until it pops loose like that with my little washer. But you see that little baffle there, and you see how it's just wiping right off. If that grease was not on there, if you did not put the grease on the baffles, it will not wipe off like that. Absolutely 100%. It will be stuck like it is like a powder coating on the baffle, and it will be stuck. Ultrasonic cleaner will not take it off like that. It'll take some of the surface stuff off, but when you take them out, the baffles will still look just as dirty as when you put them in, pretty much. And you will have to scrape them off. You'll have to take your X-Acto knife and sit there and scrape. And that's what I did. And I've got some B-roll of that, but I'd sit there and just scrape the layer of carbon that's on there. And it's no fun. This grease is a game changer, because with the grease on there, it just makes it so much easier. It just comes right off. But I'll try to throw in my B-roll tapes here and show you how I scrape the baffles off, or how I scraped them off. And I took some B-roll of me cleaning some of the residual carbon that was left over from the 1,000 rounds that I put through it at the range before I could get it home to clean it. There's still quite a bit in some of these baffles. The closer the baffle is to the muzzle of your gun, obviously the more it's going to be caked on. The thicker the layer will be. As you move toward that end of the baffle, the end of the suppressor, the baffles seem to be a little cleaner as you go. So, okay, so once I get the suppressor completely apart and get the stuff in the tray, and as you can see, they are touching, but they're not like everything's not just piled in, laying on top of each other. You might be able to just throw everything in there. I don't know. This is the way that I've been doing it, is just cover the bottom of the tray with a load. Once it gets full, I'll throw that in the ultrasonic cleaner. Any of your end caps or thread caps that have the finish, like Cerakote or whatever, you don't want to put that in the ultrasonic cleaner. The ultrasonic cleaner will take off Cerakote, paint, anodizing. It will remove it. I personally haven't had an issue with it, but I haven't really put anything. I think I did put one thread cap in there. I can't remember which one it was, but it didn't seem to hurt it too bad. I could tell it was a little bit lighter when it came out than when it went in. So over time, doing that over and over and over again, it would probably cause damage to your to the finish of your end cap, thread cap, the tubes. You don't want to put your suppressor tubes in the ultrasonic cleaner either, because it will take that finish off. So here's the other part of the Banish 45 right So any parts like this, you know, you're just going to clean them up. The inside of the suppressor tube, really, I haven't seen it get that bad. The O-rings, if there's any O-rings around the outside, I take some of that grease and I put it on the threads. Just put a little dab on my finger and just go around the suppressor here, around the O-ring, and just give the threads a little lube. Take your old toothbrush. Old toothbrushes work really good, you know, to clean out the threads. I normally do this before I put the grease on it, is I'll go around the threads just to make sure that there's no little chunks of carbon in the threads, and then I'll put a dab of grease on my finger and go around the O-rings and the threads on the, you know, anywhere where there's threads in the suppressors. Is I'll just put like a little dab on my finger and go around them, and that will keep those free and easy to get apart. Okay, so the ultrasonic cleaner does have a heating function, so it will heat your water for you. It does take a little while for it to heat up, so I usually just go to the faucet, and I got an old V8 bottle, and I'll turn the hot water on full blast, just hot, let it get real hot, and then I fill this jug up. And this is enough, more than enough to fill this up and run a cycle. Or you can run quite a few cycles with the same water. You don't have to change the water between cycles, just after you're done cleaning everything. And I took some B-roll of me cleaning last time, and I'll show you. I mean, a lot of stuff comes off in here. In the bottom of the ultrasonic cleaner, you'll have just all kinds of black gunk in the bottom of it that comes off of these pistons and baffles and stuff. But I'll fill this bottle up full of hot water, and then I'll just come in here. Once I get everything in there, I will just fill it up to the full line, and I'll turn it on for 15 minutes, throw the lid on it, let it do its thing. And then after 15 minutes is over, I normally open it up. You're not supposed to put your hands in the ultrasonic cleaner while it's running. So they say. I haven't tried it. I don't know, but they say it's not a good thing. So you want to make sure that the thing's turned off before you go sticking your hands in the water. But after the 15-minute cycle's over, I've got a little set of tongs, like kitchen tongs, and sometimes I'll move things around. Or, you know, I'll take some of the stuff that's on the outer edge of the basket, move it to the center, take some of the stuff from the center, move it to the... I just kind of like shuffle things around in there a little bit. Because it does have one transducer in the middle, so in the center, I think you are getting more of a reaction from the ultrasonic cleaning than around the edges. So I kind of move things around in there after the cycle's over with, start it back up for another 15-minute cycle, put the lid on it, and I'll do that a couple times. It depends on how dirty they are. You may run it 3, 4, 5 times. You know, the more you run it, the more comes off. You could probably solely clean it just with this if you just want to keep running it over and over and over again. Eventually, it's probably going to get it really, really clean. I don't have the patience for that, so I normally just run it about 2 or 3 15-minute cycles, and then I get them out and I finish the rest with a rag or an X-Acto knife, dental pick. You know, these are the tools that you'll need to use. Dental picks, stainless steel dental picks work really good for cleaning out. You know, if you have major gunk in the threads of some of your your suppressor tubes and things like that, you know, anything that you can use to help you get up in the cracks and crevices of the pistons and things like that. It really depends on what your suppressor is made out of. The Banish 45 by Silencer Central is basically identical, not identical, but it's very, very close to the Obsidian 45, Obsidian 9, you know, that style of suppressor. Yeah, so they're very, very similar in every way, except for the fact that the Obsidian 45 has stainless steel baffles, which can go right in the ultrasonic, and the Banish 45 has aluminum baffles. And I guess it's because maybe they're a little lighter, but I would rather have a little bit more weight. I didn't put them on a scale, but I was just trying to feel the difference between the two, and the Obsidian 45 may be just a tad bit heavier, but I'll take that all day long and be able to put my baffles in an ultrasonic cleaner and have it do most of the work for me. Then have, these right here, all these aluminum, they say that you have to clean them with like a nylon brush. Well, let me tell you something. If you don't put this grease on these aluminum baffles, that way the stuff, like I showed you, it just wipes right off. If I had not put that grease on here, this carbon, like I said, it sticks like powder coating. That's basically what it's like. It's like there's a powder coating layer of carbon over top of the baffle, and it doesn't just wipe off. It does not just wipe off. And a nylon brush, like a toothbrush, I don't think that's going to bring it off. When I took my Obsidian apart, yes, it had a lot of buildup on it because it had over 1,000 rounds on it. But I'm here to tell you, a nylon brush wouldn't even start to take any of it off. It just wouldn't do it. I mean, it was down to the scraping with a sharp blade to get it to come off, and chipping with, a dental pick. A nylon brush is not going to get these clean easily. I mean, maybe if you sat there and scrubbed it for hours on end with a nylon brush, maybe it would start coming off. I don't know. All I know is that I put the grease on here before I ever shot this suppressor because I knew that cleaning these aluminum baffles were going to be a pain if you can't put them in here. To at least when you put them in here, if it's got a good coating on it, like I said, it may not take it all off, but it's soaking in the water. And I use the Simple Green Heavy Duty Pro HD. This stuff is supposed to be okay on all your metals and everything. So this is what I use. Like I said, I'll take my bottle of hot water, pour it in there until it's real close to the full line, and then I'll pour this in there enough to get it up to the full line. And then once I do that, I start running cycles on it. But these aluminum baffles, they would be a major headache to get these clean if I had not put that grease on there. This definitely is not something I'd want to do. So the grease is a lifesaver, especially if you have, to me it's a must. For aluminum baffles, that is a must do. Coat them down very thin, very, very thin layer of that grease on these baffles. And maybe there's other stuff out there. Some people say use Vaseline or the actual grease or whatever. I don't know. I know that if it's something that's going to burn off quickly, it's not going to do any good. That stuff doesn't burn off. That's the only thing that I've seen or that I've used so far that stays on the baffles and doesn't just burn away and smoke like crazy. The white lithium grease, that's what I was kind of read first. Use white lithium grease. It's gone before you're finished with the first magazine. It's like completely gone, and there's smoke just pouring out of your suppressor. So it burns off really, really quick. So suppressors like your Alaskan 360 or your Omega 36M, Omega 300, those suppressors are sealed. You can't take them apart. You can't take the baffles out of them. So supposedly they say that rifle suppressors are self-cleaning because your high pressures from the rifle rounds will blow the carbon out of the suppressor. And that's another one of those things that I think is bullshit. Excuse me. That's another one of the things that I think is up for debate. I know that when I look at mine, when I look up in mine, I can see there is a millimeter and then some of buildup, because I can see a couple places where I've gone in there and kind of chipped it, scraped it with my dental pick just to see. And there's a coating, and it's measurable. I mean, I'm not sure how many rounds this one's got through it. It's probably got north of 500 rounds through it, I'm sure. I don't think this one's got 1,000 rounds through it yet, but it's getting there. The thing is it's going to take thousands and thousands and thousands, probably 1,000,000 rounds before this thing gets completely clogged up. All these suppressors are the same way. If you just want to shoot them until they're clogged, you may never in your lifetime, depending on how much you shoot, you may never in your lifetime fill it up full of carbon or clog it up, because it's going to take a lot of rounds to do. But I don't know, if it's a serviceable suppressor like these, user serviceable to where you can take them apart, then I'm going to clean them. I mean, a lot of people say they don't. So, I mean, it's just up to you. If you want to clean them, this is just how I do it. But these sealed suppressors, you know, there's no real way to clean them. So you're pretty much just shoot them, high-powered rifles through them, and maybe those high pressures do just keep the surface loose stuff out of there, and it keeps burning it off. I mean, I haven't done any mag dumps out of an AR or anything. That may clean it right on out. I don't know. It's possible. But I know that there is buildup. I've shot 6.5 Creedmoor and ARs through this, along with 9mm and 38 Special. You know, those are the rounds, the 9mm 38 Special. Those are the rounds that's going to give you the most buildup for sure. But there is, just to let you know, I mean, there is a little bit of a layer already built up inside of all of my sealed suppressors. So over time, they will get a buildup. But like I said, it may take 1,000,000 rounds of ammo for it to be completely clogged up. I don't know. Time will tell. But I just want to give you kind of an idea of how I clean these. I'll try to throw in some B-roll on how I clean, like the pistons and stuff like that. When they come out of here, they're not going to be squeaky clean. I have not tried putting any of that grease on the pistons to see if it makes a difference. I think that on the pistons, that grease might burn off, because, I mean, you're right here at the muzzle, and the initial majority of your blast is going to be hitting the piston right around these openings here. So I don't think that grease would last here. I believe that it probably would burn it off or blow it out. But what I do is, when I get them out of the ultrasonic cleaner, the ultrasonic, like I said, it takes off a majority of the buildup that's on there. And then whatever's left, I'm not going to turn this thing on while I'm doing this video, but I do have some B-roll of it running, so I'll throw that in here just to kind of show you. But after I get it out of the ultrasonic cleaner, it will look better than this. It'll look a little cleaner than that, but it won't be completely clean. So I normally take my X-Acto knife and I turn it on a very flat angle. I don't want to gouge it. I mean, this is stainless steel here too, I believe. You're not going to gouge it or anything, but you may scratch it a little bit if you dig in straight. I normally just lay it kind of flat, just to where the blade's just hitting the stuff, and you can see how it does take it off. So I'll normally just do like this, and I'll go anything that's left over, I'll normally just go over it at a very steep angle with a blade and just scrape anything that is still left. Like that. And then once I'm done doing that, you know, I'll take and I'll wipe it down with a rag, and usually like spray some, I normally spray it down with something like Break Free or Rim Oil, or, you know, something. I'll normally just spray it down a little bit, or spray it on the rag and just kind of like give it a little coating of oil. I don't think it really does any good, but I normally do that. because I know that that will burn off immediately as soon as you take the first shot. Any kind of break free or rim oil is going to be completely gone. On these guys right here, like the thread caps for your piston housings and things like that, you know, like the piston housing for the 36M, it has an O-ring in there. All of these end caps are thread caps. I normally call this end the thread cap because this is the end that threads onto the barrel. And then your end cap is the other end. So on all these thread caps, I normally take a little bit of white lithium grease and I just dab my finger in there just to get a little bit on my finger. And then I will, obviously this one is dirty, it needs to be clean, but just to give you an idea, after it's clean, I'll take and I'll just kind of like go around the O-ring like this. Put a very thin layer around that O-ring and smear it in. And then I put it back in my little case here, and then the next time that I'm ready to shoot, you know, the O-ring is lubed up and it's just ready to go. Alright, so that pretty much explains everything, I believe, for the cleaning part. It's not too difficult. Just keep in mind, you know, certain things you got to be more careful with. The aluminum baffles can't go in the ultrasonic cleaner. You can't go scraping them with an X-Acto knife because you will gouge the aluminum with a stainless steel X-Acto knife, and you'll scrape your anodizing off and stuff like that. So, you know, aluminum baffles you have to be very careful with. In my opinion, buy a suppressor with stainless steel or titanium baffles. Steer away from the aluminum baffles. If you have any other methods that work good for you, then let me know. So far this has worked out excellent for me. Every one of these baffles will come out looking almost like brand new. Like this one right here looks brand new. All I did was wipe it off with a rag. So you know, I've been keeping them clean after that initial 4-hour scrape session, and that wasn't fun. So that's just my advice. If you don't want to have to scrape for hours to get them clean, then do them every, you know, clean them after every session, or at least after every other session. Use some grease like that. Will drastically reduce the amount of work that you have to do to get them clean. Ultrasonic cleaners, they work. They won't get them squeaky clean, but they'll get off a lot of the stuff, and them soaking in that hot soapy water, whatever you use, like the Simple Green and stuff, it helps dissolve and break down the carbon, so it makes it easier to get off also. And that's about it. Hope it helped. Let me know. Thanks. We'll see you in the next one.